99.5 FM WBAI in the NY. Welcome back to another brand spanking new episode of Black Seinfeld, the show about nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
The one and only Trinidadi Panamanian Poppy, Rude Boy, Top Gunner, Sak Panyamada, Giovanni England. Hello, everyone.
Yo, what's going on? Bashtin, this is recording live from LA. Gio is in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, and you know what, Bashtin? I know you always say our location of where we're recording, but I've got to be honest, ever since last Saturday, we have not seen sun here in New York. So you know what? For the time being, I feel like I've been recording out of Seattle, Washington. I've got a real taste of what it's like in Seattle. It's just been nothing but doom, gloom, and rain from last week, Saturday, all the way up until now, all the way up until Wednesday. And finally, Thursday morning is going to be the first time we've seen actual sunlight since last week, Friday.
Interesting. Do you think it has to do with the hurricanes going down next to the coast of Florida?
Oh, I don't think, Bashtin. I 100% know for a fact it has everything to do with the little remnants of Ian. And so for the past like 5-ish days, it was nothing but doom, gloom, and rain. And it was really cold too. And that's the crappy part about it. I don't like it when it's cold and raining because the wind starts kicking in and it starts kicking everyone's ass. But on the plus side for me, I started wearing black every day. So I love it. I'm in the holiday spirits for the month of October. We haven't had any sunlight for the month of October as of yet, but it's going to change pretty soon here in the NYC.
That's funny because I think I get too much sunlight. So every single day, like I said before, in order to stay protected, you got to wear sunscreen. My face, my arms, my neck, every day, you know.
And you got to start drinking sparkling water. That's huge in LA now. That's huge in California. I remember you sent me something earlier today where sparkling water had to be a thing there. Not even flat distilled water. It had to be sparkling water. What is up with Californians and sparkling water? Does it help with the heat, with the sun?
So I like to kind of expand on that. I don't think it's California. I do think it's high end. Like places where you go and you expect a high end this service, sparkling water should be served the same way as I worked at Bouchon Bakery. I worked at like a French end. They will always ask still or sparkling, right? And that's super important. I don't know why I'm not interested in sparkling water. Gio, are you a fan of sparkling water?
Well, I like the Saratoga sparkling water. That's about it. Other than that, I don't really care for it.
Is it the flavored one?
No, it's not flavored.
No, it's okay. So I'm not interested at all. I think it's okay. But things like La Croix, like that's been extremely, extremely popular.
You mean LaCroix?
Sure. What did I say? La Croix? My fault. LaCroix. LaCroix has been extremely, extremely popular because that's just like a flavored sparkling water. And that's kind of where most of the market in terms of Pepsi and Coca-Cola has been spending most of the marketing towards because they find people are more interested in that than drinking water. So going back to is sparkling water, like is there a need for sparkling water? No, but I do think people just rather prefer having that rather than water.
May I ask you a question? Do you know the difference between sparkling water, seltzer water, and like club soda? Is it all just the same stuff?
That's a great question. I think it is. I think there is a flavor difference. I'm not sure about seltzer water.
Okay.
But club soda I drank before, and I kind of use it in like when I'm making concoctions at home. But
were you making gin and tonic and all that?
Pretty much, something simple. It's like bubble fizz, if you don't have your own machine to add bubbles to it,
I remember Target used to sell those little soda makers.
They still have them.
Oh,
if you want to make your own ginger ale anytime you feel during the beautiful time of autumn, then go ahead and buy it.
Oh man, autumn is definitely here, Bash, and I will say that it's definitely here in the city. But again, this is still New York, and the weather's bipolar. And by Friday, the temps are going to go back up to like 75 degrees. So that should be fun.
Yeah, and while you enjoy that beautiful weather, please listen to Black Seinfeld. We're on podcasts and all streaming services. So if you have Spotify, just tap in Black Seinfeld and you get to see our previous episodes. And if you like, go on our website, blackseinfeld.com, and then you'll be able to see our beautiful faces because I do upload our videos on YouTube as well. So we're trying to increase those subscription counts. And
That's right.
Follow us on social media, Black Seinfeld NY, Instagram and Twitter. And if you have any questions about the show, feel free. If you have some opinions on our show today, it's going to be a fun show. Gio, got everything set up today.
I don't know if fun is the best word to describe this
episode. Fun, not the word, but we're going to have a show today. And if you have an opinion, please feel free to reach out to us on our email at blackseinfeldny@gmail.com. It's kind of cool to do it DM through to like Instagram, but I think we'll both be able to see it if you email us like a 60-year-old assistant.
Yeah, I think for the most part, if you all DM us through the Instagram, I'm normally the one who catches it. I don't know if you catch it sometimes, but I'm normally the one who's looking at the Instagram DMs, and then when it comes to the Gmail, that's mainly Bashtin. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm always on Gmail. I'm a big fan of email. I think we should start emailing more, or at least use Google Calendar, invites. If you say, hey, let's hang out. I did that with Gio when we went to see like a couple movies. I said, yeah, I think Spider-Man, right?
It was Spider-Man, and it was Batman as well.
Yeah.
And I will say the reason why I don't do it in my personal life is because I do so much of it at work already. And when I work, we don't use Google Suite or G Suite as it's called. We are on Microsoft Outlook, so it's all the Microsoft plugins. And I know how to conduct emails. I know how to write emails. I know how to schedule things. It's just when I'm in my personal life, I like to disengage from all of that stuff. I don't want to be in best regards. I don't want to say for the lack thereof. I don't want to say prior to our last email. I don't want to do
as per our last conversation. That's my favorite one. Once I learned that at 19, that's all I did. As per our last conversation.
You know what's not my favorite thing that I read in emails? I hate it when someone goes, kindly X, Y, and Z. I hate it. I can't stand it. I don't understand why they use the word kindly reply to this message, or kindly do this, or kindly give me the keys to the car. I don't like it.
I have an answer to that, but I don't know if it stands true. But things like Gmail, they have this kind of predictive typing for you. And I use it myself. And I remember reading on like AI and how our language is changing because they're predicting what we're writing. So we're writing like AI, not vice versa. Not AI is predicting us. We're writing like the AI. So kindly does come up a couple times if you start with K, or if you want to, if you do research how to start email, kindly may show up. So you're going to build a certain pattern where you might just start using kindly for everything. It could be a passive aggressive thing too. I remember reading another thing about like women in the workplace when they're talking to like a male coworker, they have to be a little bit more passive aggressive because they're not taken seriously if they talk in a regular tone. So I remember reading something like that.
That is very unfortunate, but it is very true because I have a manager who is a woman, but sometimes when clients come in, they go straight to me still. So that is a thing where, unfortunately, men don't respect women in the workplace, even though they may have more of an authority over them.
Exactly. So that's something I found very interesting. And it does convey with emails as well. So kindly, and then it's like very passive aggressive. That's why you feel offended from that word. It's just like, just tell it to me straight. It's like you have to, it's just the language. It's how language works.
I get it. In best regards. I get it.
In best regards. I always end my emails in best, Sebastian Louiser.
Oh, I do I give them the regards too. I have to give the regards. That's my favorite
Best
one.
regards or just regards?
Best no, best regards.
Best regards.
If it's just regards, then I don't rock with you like that. But best regards, it gives me a little bit more of a camaraderie, you know, it's a bit more lighthearted for me. Regards is just like this is very 1-2. I don't really rock with you like that. I'm just doing my job. Best regards, I'm actually giving you, you know, my best prosperities and blessings onto you. That's what that is for me. That's the corporate way of doing that.
Hey, you know,
Give it my best regards.
that's the language that we try to speak. And like I said, it's us speaking like them. It's no longer us like speaking by ourselves. We're learning a language as we, you know, grow. Of course, we don't speak about. Come on, like I don't say, "Yo, peace." I say peace, right? When we say goodbye, I was like, "Best
That's true.
regards," and then you leave. That's come on. That sounds off.
How are you in writing class back in college?
Oh, I didn't become a good writer until I was like 21. I was a terrible writer. I think my last 4 semesters, everything came together. Now I'm a much better writer, but it took some time. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I remember back in high school, my English teacher was like, by the end of this, you're not going to be better writers. You're not going to be that great. I thought he was just being a dick, but no, he was right.
yeah,
I
yeah,
sucked in high school.
yeah. It's not. I do think high school was supposed to prepare us, but certain schools can, other schools cannot get you anywhere. So college really did help me because I'm trying to get that C at least, and you gotta write something to get a C at least. But like I said, by the end of my college career, I was getting A's in the writing assignments. So eventually
Yeah.
you figure out, folks. Eventually you figure out. But Gio, like, how's your week going?
My week has been great. My weekend has been great. You know, speaking of respecting women in the workplace, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binaries, I, Giovanni Anglin, have finally found first ever sugar mama. I did it. F the world. I'm out here. I'm killing the game. You don't go seeking a sugar mama. The sugar mama comes seeking for you. And I feel blessed right now. I feel God is just raining down on his salvation all over me, and I'm excited about this new venture in
Okay,
life.
Anderson Pack.
Absolutely. Price tags and all of that. Bundle. What? What? And I will say that she is the boss lady. So I'm hype. I am super hype.
Interesting.
Absolutely, man. I was just chilling. I was wearing my little Hellfire Club shirt because I got a lot of Halloween gear this coming October, and she said what's up to me first. I was like, oh, okay, hi, how you doing? Blah blah blah. I started sitting with her, talking, understanding what she did for a living.
Politicking.
Once I heard what she did, I it was like the money bag emoji where the eyes are the dollar signs, and then like when you open up the mouth, like the dollar just comes out. It was like that. I was like, oh shoot, okay. And she was spitting game on me. She was like, yeah, I want to take you out to a nice dinner. I was like, whoa, she is trying to swoon me here. I was like, this is how it feels.
Nice dinner to the Applebee's.
Don't do that. See why you got to do that.
My fault. Red Lobster is better, right?
It is better, but come on,
No,
bro.
it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's not
It is
better.
not the thing. They do not have Cheddar Bay biscuits at Applebee's.
I'm not eating that. So
You're lying. You know you are eating that.
no, I'm not, because you could buy the package in the store and taste exactly the same. So I'll just buy, eat it at home. I go to a restaurant, I'm not gonna eat that. I could get it at the store.
Okay, but if you had the choice between Applebee's and Red Lobster, you gonna choose Applebee's?
No.
Exactly. See, there you go. See, that's why I don't like Bashtin. He know what he trying to do.
Applebee's is just a bona fide diner, okay? So
It is a bona fide diner, okay? You never heard Beyonce rap about when he F me good, I'm gonna take his ass to Applebee's.
well,
No.
Applebee's drinks are something else, though. That's all I like to say. They're a little heavy on alcohol. It's a little bit crazy.
They are generous when it comes to the pours.
So that's my only thing. I thought that threw me off when I ordered a Long Island iced tea. I was like, this is too strong for a family establishment.
Yeah. I mean, you did order at Long Island though. It's a mixture of alcohols though, Bash, with a splash of
No,
Coke.
but that's my go-to drink because I'm not drinking all night. This is probably that one drink.
Oh, you want to get muffed up quick.
I'm a slow
You
sipper. By like the third hour of our conversation, I should be done. Then I'm slurring words a little bit, but I talk
wait by
faster when I'm tipsy, so it's all good.
wait by the third hour?
Yeah, or the second hour. When are you going out
Okay.
with your friends? I'm not drinking it unless we going to bar hopping. Then yeah, you gotta drink it quick.
Okay.
Then by the second bar, you're on your second Long Island iced tea. Then things get a little crazy.
So wait a minute. When do you go to Applebee's with your friends and all of this? Because
No, I only
you're,
went to
you're at
Applebee's twice. I was
Okay.
talking about Long Island iced teas as a whole.
Oh well, yeah. That's the point of Long Island iced teas is for you to just get muffed up quick. That's it.
That's what I
That's the
mean.
only reason why you drink Long Island iced teas.
True.
Now,
True.
during this time of the holiday, I am into hot toddies. For those of you who don't know what hot toddy is, it's basically uh, hot water, whiskey, and if you want some lemon and a tea bag as well, whatever tea bag you want. Pause. Any kind of tea you like. Don't do that. It just come on. It sounded crazy. It just
No,
sounded
it
crazy.
it didn't. It didn't.
It did. See, that's California changing you. All right. But anyways, any kind of tea you want, you can add it in the and you can add it in there. It is real good. It's one of my favorites for this weather because again, the temperatures like to fluctuate.
So what do you go for? Like a black tea, like an English breakfast or something, or Earl Grey?
Sometimes an English breakfast, sometimes an Earl Grey, sometimes I'll even switch it up and do a herbal tea. When I was working at the cafe, we had all these kinds of teas and stuff. So sometimes I'll fill you in on some a nice like those African teas. So like those vanilla rooiboses or those red rooiboses, those go really well with hot toddies.
Very interesting. What's a hot toddy again?
A hot toddy, once again, is hot water, whiskey, some lemon, maybe a little bit of spices in there, and then you add the tea bag in. The tea bag is optional.
And what whiskey do you recommend?
Oh, Jim Beam is cool. If you want to do some regular Jim Beam, old Jim Beam never fails. I'm not a huge whiskey guy, so that's not my real forte. My forte comes with tequila. I like tequila a lot.
Okay, yeah, tequila's a fun time.
Tequila's always a fun time, man.
Yeah. Speaking of a fun time, my weekend
Yes.
was pretty interesting.
What'd
Um,
you do this weekend, bud?
I went to my first concert in LA.
Ooh,
Not my first concert since the pandemic. I could say that's my second one. I did
okay.
see JPEG Mafia around this time last year,
I remember this.
which was funny because the next day I actually went to LA. JPEG concert was very fun, very interesting. Still one of my favorite rappers. So this concert, also one of my favorite rappers, Lupe Fiasco. And in this
Mm-hmm.
concert, he was performing from front to back in exact album order. Lupe Fiasco, The Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, super classic. And it's funny because I think last year or 2 years ago, he was performing Food and Liquor.
Yes.
And I love that album, but I was thinking, it's like, man, if he was to do the Cool on tour, I would spend so quickly on that. And
Lo and behold.
lo and behold, like he was promoting it on Twitter for like, a couple months. And I was like, all right, yeah, let me go for it. And I found a ticket, $35, a little bit over tax, still pay the the insurance fee just in case. You never know.
Mm.
And because Sanfa, man, that Sanfa concert I couldn't go to because of the New York City storm in 2016. I wish I had insurance for that. And people went too. I was upset. It's like, how you should have canceled it. That storm was bad. And I'm from New York. No storm is bad. So,
May
yeah.
I ask you, what is the difference between New York crowds at a concert and LA crowds?
I'm glad you asked me that question because in this situation, I cannot answer it.
Ooh,
Because this is different. Like I said, and it's very important the listeners to understand, The Cool came out 15 years ago,
yes.
right? I'm 28, so that album came out when I was 13. I didn't discover that album until maybe I was 14, 15. I was like a year late. Definitely like 2009 when I was listening to like all of Lupe Fiasco. So the people, and Lupe even said it, when this album came out, you're 15, right? You're 20, you're 15, you're 10. Some of you might be even 3 years old. And I could tell you that this crowd was full of grown people. All right.
Oh, like MGMT grown?
MGMT grown. Yes. When we went to the a little bit, this was like very diverse, by the way. MGMT crowd was not as diverse. Like this was diverse. There was a lot of older black people in this show. Like
really
true fans. You could tell like they used to skateboard. They used to listen to like backpack rap music. Like these are grown people, and you could just look at them and understand this is what you used to do as a kid, right?
Oh, wow.
When you're young, you used to listen to Lupe Fiasco because he was like the best rapper ever to you. You know, Fahrenheit First and 15 mixtapes. Like that's what got me into Lupe. It's like, okay, this is legendary stuff.
This is it.
This is it. So the crowd was much, much older, and I actually did prefer that. But at the same time, I wish maybe it was a younger crowd because they weren't jumping. They're not really a lot of songs to mosh to per se, but there are songs to kind of jump around to. But and everybody was kind of social distancing in the most concert way by like not even pressing up on each other. Like no one pushed forward when Lupe came out, and I was surprised. So yeah.
So I'm assuming everyone still had their personal space, their personal bubble.
Personal space. Almost as bad as the bubble I was in when I went to see Childish Gambino in the concert. I was surrounded by like grown black folks, and none of them moshed, none of them did anything. I was like, this sucks. And I look over there, and they're moshing. It's a bunch of white kids. It's like, I want to be over there, okay? That was 2013. You know, I was 2013. I was 19.
This is because of the internet.
Yeah, because of the internet. I love that tour. It could have been better if I was surrounded by the right people. Like nobody wants to move. No one wants to dance. Everybody just bobbing their heads. Like, I know this song. I know the lyrics. Anyways, but I was perfectly fine. No one's pushing. No one's shoving. Everybody was just on their own. Everybody's rapping bar for bar. The synergy for the crowd matched Lupe Fiasco. But I could tell you the synergy for like I don't know you and you're next to me at a concert was not there, and it could be an older crowd thing too.
Okay,
because like I said,
because it is a thing where when you start rapping along with words and stuff, there's certain people that will notice and start hyping you up and all of that.
Exactly.
So you're telling me there's none of that.
None of that. And every concert I've been to, there was always something like that.
Right, of course. When I saw Kendrick and I was and he was playing Lust and the chorus came on, I started spitting the verse and people just like
yeah, exactly. But everybody was spitting the verse because everybody knows the lyrics to most of the songs, so they're kind of spitting to themselves and no one's really hyping each other up. And like I said, I've seen Childish Gambino twice. The first time I saw him was way better because it was at a festival, and he came like maybe. I think we waited for like maybe 30 minutes. So we started talking to each other. So we got comfortable. Hence when we knew the lyrics, we were spitting, circle and everything. But
that sounds cool.
Other than that, Lupe Fiasco is a top tier performer. Top tier. His breath control, amazing. He did not skip a single bar, right? He did not. He did dub it down and did the whole thing. It was insane. I was mind blown. I never seen a concert where someone just bar for bar ripping all his songs, his deep cuts as well, just killing it bar for bar. And maybe I did see it when I saw Raekwon perform, and he did like everybody's verse in this Wu-Tang song. I thought that was insane. But certain rappers.
Yeah, I don't think people understand how hard that is to just how hard breath control and having a steady breath control is when rapping certain lyrics, because you don't have the start stop option as you do when you're in the booth or anything. No, you have to go from beginning to end, and you have to learn how to breathe in between verses and all of that. So I tip my hat off to a lot of those artists. I know one person in particular, he is a beast at this. He's a damn alien. He's a monster. That is one, of course, Black Thought. He's just mind-boggling every time he performs live.
I
I
thought,
think.
yeah.
Oh, what were you gonna say?
No, I would love to see Black Thought perform live as well.
I was close to see the Roots perform, but I had to go to Dallas. So
Ah,
I'm still salty about that. And Burna Boy was there too. I really wanted to see Burna Boy, but hey, I went to Dallas that weekend. I still had a great time in Dallas, but back in my mind, I was like, damn, could have seen the Roots, could have seen Burna Boy, could have seen Freddie Gibbs, damn it, who we're gonna talk about later on today because he dropped an album, Soul Sold Separately. Had to, make sure and enunciate that first. Soul Sold Separately.
sold so separately.
Less. Good alliteration right there.
Interesting.
But anyways, Bastion, I feel like we should get into the first song of the week. We could take a little break. But before we get into the song of the week, it's gonna be Pusha T. Just so you remember. As we previously state, we accept emails from Black Seinfeld NY at gmail.com where you submit us music or you submit us questions and stuff like that. But I got something a bit different in the mail, but it wasn't the Black Seinfeld email. It was my WBAI email, and I keep forgetting that people also do have access to that because I do work board operations on Saturdays, and I do speak with a lot of the hosts who I engineer. And so I was shocked to get this email from someone who actually listens to our show, and he wanted us to play like a season's greetings for the month of October. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play this from one of our favorite rappers, and then afterwards I'm gonna play just the regular Pusha T. So this is just a little break, and when we come back, we're gonna get into the brunt of the show. Is that cool, Bash?
Cool.
All right, cool. We'll be right back with more Black Seinfeld. Woo, that was Pusha T, just so you remember, from his latest album, It's Almost Dry, that came out this past springish summer 2022. It's still a good album.
Yes.
Bash it. I don't know how you still feel about it right now in October 2022.
Well, I like to say most albums that we originally did a review and opinions, I still hold to like a higher no, like I hold the same opinions except for one album. One album, my opinions has changed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
which album is this?
Steve Lacy.
Ah.
Yeah. I think his album I didn't give his album enough credit. I said it was good. No, it's an excellent album. It took some time, but I actually do listen to that album on the regular. So Steve Lacy's album is like fire. It's phenomenal.
His single track, Gemini Rights, I hear it all the time, everywhere now.
Yeah. I Gemini, right? That's the album.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Sorry.
No, you mean Bad Habit. Bad Habit.
Bad Habit. Yes.
Yeah. Bad Habit is it's an amazing song. Actually, listening to Bad Habit in other places made me go back to the album because I felt like maybe I forgot how that sounded, like the song, and not like a 10-second snippet. And then I went back to the album. It's like, okay, this album is really good.
You know what, Bastion? I'm not a big horoscope guy at all. I'm not a big Zodiac guy, but I feel some type of way. You Geminis, y'all have Gemini Rights as an album. I know Virgos, y'all have Virgos Groove. I need a Scorpio tune.
Scorpio? Isn't that Drake?
No, because his album was called Scorpion. He dropped it during the summer, and it was not a good double LP. He had the balls to say he had Michael Jackson on a song, and it wasn't even Michael Jackson.
Yeah, it's Scorpion. That Drake album's for you. You're just hating. Anyways.
No, it was not for me. But anyways.
Yeah, it's Steve Lacy. I went back to the album, and it's really good. I like it a lot.
It is a really good album. Again, 2022 has been a great year for music. I didn't expect us to get all of these albums, all these really good albums, mind you. And this is going to be a hard top 10. So I think I might have to extend it to maybe it's like top 20, top 15. Because there's so many albums that I love.
We normally do that. I think we brush. No, actually, we do like normally top 10s. Never mind.
Yeah, it's normally top 10. But I remember the year 2020. I was like, listen, there's been too many great albums. I'm going to do a top 20.
Yeah, and we just speed through it. But yeah.
Yes. Before we get into the real meat and bones, meat and potatoes, if you will, of the show, What did you think about that clip that was sent in from one Jay-Z, one Hov for Hovoween?
Yes, thank you. Never again.
Never. All right, fair enough. You got it. Well, it is finally October. We have reached the final quarter of the season. And last year, Bashtin, in October, a lot of our fans enjoyed the coverage of a lot of true crime stories and true crime tales that we did last year. I know last year, for example, we talked about the Zodiac Killer, which was a person who, for the longest time, was never caught until he was actually caught last year. But he was dead, fortunately, he was dead when he was caught. Also, we covered the assassination of the former Haitian president, Mr. Jovenel Moise, which is one of our most popular episodes. And whenever I brought it up to Felipe at a Latin Roots this past Saturday, that was the one where that piqued his interest the most, because I guess people didn't think of that we would cover something like that, which is very much on brand for Black Seinfeld.
Yeah, just to backtrack, talking about the assassination movies, there was a lot of stories and a lot of conversations, and I was listening to most of them from my dad, and he sent me articles, and we were watching interviews, and the stories will always change in different parts of it. So I kind of pitched Gio, it's like, even before October, it's like, hey, one of these days I'm just going to outline the timelines and tell you like 3 different scenarios, what could have happened and how it could have happened. And I could tell you to this day, there's not an exact story, because things always change. So whoever did the hit job, someone always gets arrested, and then they change the story right after. So I could tell you that story is still not fully solved. And I don't know if I would go back to it, but I could do a quick update maybe by the end of the month.
Oh, okay. That would be something I'm interested in. And trust me, I know all the time of what's happening, who's being prosecuted, which judge is doing the prosecution. Because again, I engineer for Daoud, so to pop me, he always brings up that case and that whole plot, because he knows that you and I are really into that. And since we addressed that story last year, a lot of people are still wondering about that case and what's going on, really.
Yeah. I noticed that because you said Jovenel Moise so quickly, and it's like on the tip of your tongue. I'll call him Moise because I tend to forget his first name. But you said it so easy. It's like, all right.
Yeah,
You've been listening.
I've been listening.
You've been listening.
Right. That's right. Damn it. I know. All right.
All right. I give it to
you. Thank you very much. And then the week after that, Bashtin, we discussed the mysterious disappearance of a internet influencer, Gabby Petito, which story was horrifying, because that happened in real time. Where they suspected her boyfriend had some sort of interference in her disappearing, because she was with her boyfriend last, and then boyfriend killed himself, and then it was found out that the boyfriend actually murdered Gabby, and it was all a huge mess. And that was happening as recently as we did that episode. So that was just nuts to cover that whole thing. And I knew it was a big hit with a lot of the feedback that we were getting, and just the numbers, and just how much people are interested in true crime. So I knew this month around that we were gonna do this again. And I think to start this off the right way, to bring in October and Spooktober the proper way, I think it was very important, and I couldn't ignore the fact that we had to discuss reluctantly, because I really didn't want to talk about it because of how much it has affected me, was the Jeffrey Dahmer biopic on Netflix. 10 episodes, each about an hour apiece. And I am someone who has watched true crime documentaries a lot. I have a degree in psychology, and one of the reasons why I was interested in psychology was because I wanted to understand human behavior and why people do the things that they do. And true crime is one of the few sectors to really understand how people think and why people do the things that they do. And I got to be honest with you, out of all my years of being into all that stuff, I've never seen something this popular on Netflix this fast, because Netflix always had their true crime docuseries and stuff like this, but never have we seen a true crime biopic to this level. I just want to say that. I know, Bashtin, you're not into true crime like I am, but prior to the Jeffrey Dahmer biopic, have you ever heard of any true crime biopic that was popular on this level as the Dahmer one is?
I won't call it true crime, but something in terms of like painfully to watch, just like When They See Us.
Yeah.
You know, I won't call it true crime, but definitely was a biopic, an adaptive biopic of an event that happened with Central Park 5 in the 90s. And it was just, I didn't watch it, right? I already knew about the incident for a very long time. It's constantly brought up. And it was just, I didn't know if I wanted to watch it. I would see scenes, and it's like, do I have to watch like a whole 4 episodes of this, or 6 episodes, I think? But it did win some awards, and I could only assume that Dahmer had the same acting caliber, where you could put yourself in certain characters' shoes, and I think that's kind of what they wanted to convey within this series.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the creators of this show was Ryan Murphy, who actually, and Ian Brennan, who actually worked on American Horror Story. I've never seen American Horror Story, but apparently
Really?
Ryan.
You never watched that show?
I
I'm
know.
surprised.
I know a lot of people are.
What?
I don't know why. I just never watched it.
You never did. You never did a review for it? I swear you did.
Never done a review on American Horror Story. Never.
This is Mandela effect. Who are you really?
I know, right?
I swear you did. All right, cool.
Yeah, and since Ryan Murphy was the one who created it and directed it, he brought aboard Evan Peters, who was in American Horror Story for one of the seasons. And Evan Peters, for those of you who do not know, Quicksilver in the Fox X-Men universe. I swear he was in Disney Channel too once upon a time. He was a child actor once upon a time. All right. I just don't remember where, but I remember seeing his face in one of those like Disney Channel shows. But of course, he like, I always known him to be like a goofball, to play a lot of goofball roles and goofball characters. I mean, shoot, he was in WandaVision back in during the pandemic, where he played, you know, the Fox version of Quicksilver, right?
Good twist.
Which was a great twist.
Cool that he was up for the part.
Yeah, shoot, that was right when Fox Studios was bought by Disney. But
conglomerates, streaming wars
and conglomerates. But now we have Evan Peters' portrayal as Jeffrey Dahmer, and I have to say, Evan Peters was too good at this role, because I feel like, well, he changed his accent to a Midwestern Wisconsin accent, which I have friends from Wisconsin, and they said he got his voice down to a T. He had that perfect Midwestern voice accent. He looked like Jeffrey Dahmer. His mannerisms were Jeffrey Dahmer. His the way he acted, how reclusive, how introverted, how shy, how somewhat timid and awkward he was throughout the show, was encapsulated perfectly. And I remember watching an interview with him recently, and he said, after portraying him, it was very draining, and he had to take therapy because of how physically and emotionally taxing it was to portray a man such as Jeffrey Dahmer, who was notoriously known as one of the most infamous serial killers in the history of America. I'm not going to tell you what he did because odds are you already know and you've probably seen the show. And I'm not going to read it off because it still makes me queasy every time I talk about it. But yeah, Evan Peters immediately deserves an Emmy. Like, no, it's not up for debate. I don't care who else is going to do any sort of serious roles. Emmys need to give Evan Peters an Emmy immediately. Immediately.
Yeah.
And Bashtin, I reluctantly I told you to catch at least the first 2 episodes of the show, and I remember telling you, "Hey man, I know you're not into this stuff, but I just want to apologize to you because I saw the whole season, and I know the first 2 episodes are not the easiest to get through, and they're not the easiest to watch, but in your brief watch viewings of the show, what was your initial thoughts on the first 2 episodes?
Okay, so yeah, I did watch the first 2 episodes, and just to clarify, I'm not the type of person to watch those like drama series of like tragic events. Like I gave you the example earlier, When They See Us. Especially if like Netflix produced it, because that's what they're into. That's like their bag, because they understand how to produce it, like who to contact and the right actors. It's a bit strange that they do those type of documentaries better than HBO. All right, and I've seen a few. I love HBO, but Netflix, some like weirdo stuff, Netflix could do it very well. All right, very well.
He means true crime stuff, people. Netflix is really good at that.
Everything and the weirdo stuff. I do think true crime as a genre is interesting, and at the same time, it's like messed up morally.
I'm gonna get into it.
Because of how I think like how we see the situation in terms of like, it reminds me of like 2020. You ever watch it with your parents? It's kind of just like on a Friday, it's kind of weird, and you watch it pretty much like this show. They're doing this live adaptation of a situation of a murderer, and it's like help us catch this person.
Of true events, mind
True
you.
events. Yeah.
A lot of the things that he did in the show, it is true.
Yeah.
Like, this really happened.
Yeah, and that's kind of what caught my attention. So it, like I said, just the true crime aspect of it, and how it makes us feel in a psychological level where we could take the content and just kind of move on and remember it, but kind of move on, but not do anything to kind of help or alleviate the situation to make sure this can never really happen again. And it's not just us thing. It's like it's bigger than this. It's institutions, prison complex system, it's the government. That being said,
yes.
now I just want to lay that out there. It's important, that's just my character. That being said, I do think it was very interesting. It was done very well. Direction. I don't know much about Dahmer, but from the first 2 episodes, I could really understand like how the people around him in the apartment felt. I can understand what he was going after, like who he was going after.
Right.
And I did have an idea of his childhood. And you're right about the first 2 episodes being like difficult to watch, but at the same time, you get a big chunk of the show just from those first 2. I'm pretty sure like the rest of the series is just expanding certain events to like a longer watching venue.
Yeah, and I think that's what made the show so well. What made it actually really good, or just a great show, is because yes, Dahmer is the focal point of the series, but what they do also is they're showing how his actions has affected everyone around him. So his neighbor, his dad, his somewhat friends, the city of Milwaukee, the Black community. It shows what this man's actions from the late 70s all the way up to 1991. It's showing like what he did and how it affected Milwaukee, Wisconsin to this very day. Because I don't know if you know this, the Oxford apartment complexes where Dahmer lived, and he went on his freaking spree of just murdering people. Uh, that's been taken down, and it's still an empty lot to this day, and it's gated. It's just gated around, and they haven't done anything since because they don't want the stench of Jeffrey Dahmer to even come across or be a thought of Milwaukee. But having a show like this, obviously, it's bringing back a lot of old memories and past traumas.
Did you ever look up what happened to the people, like the neighbors, like the people that lived there? Like they were just like not even kicked out, but they're like forced out to move and everything.
Yeah, that was it. That's all I knew. It was like they were forced to move out. Move out where? I don't know where, but because of how gruesome everything was and what carried on and all the foul stenches and the fact that people are traumatized still to this day on the foul stench. And I thought what was crazy about it was throughout the series, and this actually happened. I want to reiterate, he always had an excuse as to why it smelled that way. It's like, oh, it was old meat. Yeah, it's just rotten meat, or oh, it's the fish tank. The fish water is really dirty, and I put it in I put the water in the blue bin, and so I just have to like clean out the fish tank and throw out the water. And every excuse he had, people just seemed to let it go, which made watching this infuriating. Hindsight being 2020 for what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this show so difficult to watch, is because it's like you know what's gonna happen to these people and these characters, but the characters don't know. So it's like you're watching, but you can't do anything about it. So you're just like this spectator that no one can see, and you're seeing everything, you're witnessing everything. I think that's what makes this show so difficult to watch, of how real everything feels. And I think that's why this show is getting so much praise, but also a lot of backlash as well. It's because there hasn't been a series like this where it's the reenactments and all that stuff feel that real. Whenever it comes to true crime, even docu series, right, they'll always have the victim's family, and they'll have photos of the victims, and they'll talk about how they were as people first. The relatives would talk about the person first, giving personality to just an image that we know of, right? And sure, there'll be reenactments, but the reenactments are always corny. It isn't that gruesome, it isn't that violent. But no, this one, it is uneasy. It is high tense. It is tense. Your stomach, you will feel queasy. You are not going. In all my years of watching this stuff, this is the one where I'm like, I'm not enjoying what I'm watching, and I think it's meant to be that way. I think that's the point of it. The point is, this is not a good person. Now, why do we feel the need to cover this person again after, I don't know, 6 freaking movies based on 6 series about him and countless amount of documentaries about him? I don't know. But the point was still made of, this is not a person who should be worshipped and idolized, because believe it or not, Bashtin, there are a lot of people that idolize and sort of, worship serial killers. That's a thing. When Dahmer was in prison, he was getting fan mail. Jeffrey Dahmer became like Freddy Krueger. He became like Jason. He became like Michael Myers. There were Jeffrey Dahmer costumes. There were Jeffrey Dahmer comic books, and like people were writing to him like, oh, hey Jeff, like you're like a costume now. You're a comic book. You're this. You're that. And that notoriety got to his head in prison. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, it did?
Oh yes, it did. That was one of the reasons why he was killed. Oh yeah, he started to feel himself in prison because he was somewhat of this
celebrity,
infamous celebrity.
Infamous. Yeah.
He was infamous, not famous. He was infamous.
Yeah.
For what he did.
So I have a question for you about something that I thought was interesting.
Go for it, bud.
How do you feel, or do you agree that they humanize them more in this series than pretty much like any type of thing?
Um,
Talking about his childhood, talking about how his relationship with his parents, talking about how he couldn't formally communicate with his father, understanding like how his father taught him how to like cut a body up, well, cut roadkill up,
right,
like
exactly. He taught him taxidermy and
taxidermy. Yeah,
dissection. Yeah, his father taught him dissection and the art of taxidermy. And then I remember in an interview when he said, once I got tired of cutting up animals, I moved on to people. Uh, that's very fair. It is. I will not argue against that. Yes, this show does somewhat in a way uh humanize Jeffrey Dahmer, right? And show some sort of, I guess, empathy towards him for turning out the way that he did. Um and here's me in just a psychology brain, right? I was always interested in why people turn out the way that they do, right? And in order to understand the reasons why people are the way that they are and the reasons why people do egregious stuff, is you have to learn where does that come from. So the only way you're gonna learn from that is you have to go back to the past and understand, okay, because this is like psychologically proven. A lot of serial killers, they develop the way that they are is because of their childhood, for the lack of parents in their life. Jeff's mom dipped out on him when he was like 17 years old. His parents were going through a divorce, and she just left his ass in the house by himself for months. So he's flunking school, he's drinking, like he's just doing all this crap. Um, do I sympathize with him? And not really, because I don't think that should lead you to kill people,
mm-hmm.
but it gives me an understanding of why you are the way that you are, is because you never had that foundation. You feel me?
Never had that help.
You never had that. Exactly. He never had that form of help. His father in his life tried to help the best way he could, right? He sent his ass to Wisconsin University. Then he flunked out of that, sent his ass to the military. He got discharged. He spent some time in Miami. Then he wasn't working out in Miami. He went back home up to Wisconsin. He lived with his grandma. He started killing people. Then he got caught up.
Well, that's kind of interesting, because his father's answer to his problems is like throw him into the labor.
Yeah.
And that's something I thought was like, this isn't the proper answer by saying like live a regular life. Like that's when the clash will happen. I'm not trying to humanize him at all, but I'm just trying to like point out, it's like you can't tell someone that's like having issues, anxiety or depression, or just intrusive thoughts, like, oh, just to live your life, find a nice Christian girl.
Too. And he's gay too.
Yeah, and he didn't know how to deal with it or even talk to his parents about it.
I will say though, Bashtin, you got to keep this in mind as well.
Yeah,
this was the 1970s.
That too.
All that depression, anxiety, and all that crap, that wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah, and that's something I noticed too, with how the police dealt with him or didn't deal with him. Is because because something I actually do know about like policing, and when police deal with like gay couples or when they deal with like a gay man, they try not to really stick around because they don't want to see anything. They just want to kind of be in, be out. Because I think around that time sodomy was illegal. So if they see a said action, they will have to arrest that person. But I don't know when it became like legal, or it's like now you can't really arrest people for that.
Right.
But like most police officers will just see the situation, ask a question or two, and just leave as fast as possible. So that's like the early 70s, and that's how he was able to kind of get by without any problems. Also, he's white, so.
Yeah, and also you have to understand too, in the peak of his like murderous sprees when he started living on his own in '91, you have to also think about AIDS. That was a huge thing. That was the thing that that people really didn't fully understand yet. And so, people didn't understand how AIDS can be caught and stuff like that. So people were really they were unintelligent about AIDS. So, they thought, oh, I don't want to be next to him because I don't want to catch AIDS. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Magic Johnson came out and he said, yes, I'm HIV positive? Karl Malone was like, yo, I don't want to guard this dude.
Yeah.
That I'm just putting that into perspective as well of, again, hindsight being 2020 and we're in 2022. In 91, they didn't have this stuff yet. And in the late 70s, they didn't, mental health and all that stuff.
Especially
that wasn't
the public education. And also it's police. There's no real training for being a police officer. So
exactly. And also, yes, that's one thing I really wanted to touch on because how police was responded towards that community of the countless amount of complaints they were giving about him, about the smells, about how he was acting. I don't know if you've seen that episode yet where
No.
where one of Jeff's victims was a 14-year-old boy.
Oh yeah, I actually did. That was the second episode.
That was episode 2. Yeah. So you've seen it where he picked up this 14-year-old kid. He brought him back to his crib and just gave him beer, and he said, hey, I'm going to take some pictures of you, blah blah blah. And what he would do is to shut off their motor skills and to shut off their speech, he would drill into their skull. That way it would get messed up and they wouldn't speak or anything. Jeff, for whatever reason, he left the apartment, and that boy, he made an escape for it, and some neighbors saw him outside bloodied up in his underwear just walking. And what made it worse was, once those neighbors called the police, Jeff came back and frickin' saw them there, and he convinced the police that, yo, this is my 19-year-old boyfriend. He's just drunk. And the cops just fucking believed him.
Yeah.
Like they just believed him, bro. Like the kid said nothing because, again, he was drugged up and
lobotomized.
He was lobotomized, so he couldn't say anything because Jeff wanted to create his own freaking mindless zombies who just was bending at his beckoning call. And so the cops helped him bring this 14-year-old boy back up to the apartment. And once they left, the dude killed him. That was mind-boggling to me. That is what, ladies and gentlemen, if you do not believe white privilege exists, I don't think there's nothing that beats that.
Yeah. And before we change topics, could you expand more on how the families currently feel on their families of the victims currently feel on their depiction on the series?
Yeah, so great that you mentioned that, because one of the victim's family members, Errol Spencer's sister, went on Twitter and she said, hey, I didn't know that this series was going to come out. And by this coming out, it's just re-traumatizing to see this again, because this came out with no warning. They didn't notify any of the victims' families. They didn't notify anyone about this. They just came out with this series, right? And it's something that, again, re-traumatizes us, and it brings us back to, that time and that era. And, I said earlier that the reason why this show even exists was because they wanted to give those victims a voice. But I just find it very ironic that, those families had no knowledge about this show even coming out. So I find that very hypocritical. And I think that goes well into the next topic, which is the business of true crime, because it is a big business, and people like myself, I do watch it a lot. And this is a different kind of series because, there isn't a detective that's going that's recanting the case. This isn't the victims' families talking about this. This is just seems like a passion project, honestly. True crime series and docu-series, they make a lot of money, a boatload of money. There's channels dedicated to true crime. There's Investigation Discovery. There's Oxygen. There's True TV. There's right. Exactly. That's yeah. There's a lot of channels and a lot of shows dedicated to true crime, right? And honestly, I'm going to say what I said Saturday when Felipe asked me about it. Unfortunately, this is still a business, right? And this is still capitalism. And this is going to make a crap load of money. Now, should we immortalize these people? No. I think we watch this stuff is because we as humans, like, I think we like watching like gruesome crap sometimes. We like watching violence. We like watching the capabilities of what people can do. We freaking glamorize drug dealers. We glamorize gangsters, based on true events. We glamorize all of that stuff.
Yeah, all types of gangsters. I don't like mafia gangsters too. Yeah.
Mafia gangsters. I mean, freaking Snowfall is a huge show, and that's based on true events. I think it's human nature, but also it's just the American way of just how we are as a society to, exploit and expose these things and make money off of it. I'm not saying that it's right at all. I'm just saying this is just classic capitalism at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If also the point is to learn from this, I would hope that, let's see, what's the best way to put this, because the police haven't learned their lesson.
That's what I wanted to say. That's what I was saying earlier about like the idea of true crime is an interesting genre because we people, like, we learn new information, but if you can't do anything with said new information, it kind of becomes useless. So what you said about how their thoughts on the show was to give the victims a voice. But if the victims themselves did not authorize their opinions on it, did not say like, hey, this is how I felt, I want you to expand on it, there was no conversation, then that becomes selfishness, right? This same way how you want to help, if you want to help like a foreign country, for example, let's say Puerto Rico with what's going on over there, right?
Right.
You most likely will walk up, the average American that has money in the charity will most likely walk up and do their own thing without talking to the locals. No, you have to talk to the locals first. You have to see what they need and get them the surprise that they asked for. Just giving like a quick example. And that's kind of what they didn't do. It's like, how would you talk about it? Like, I think I did read like one of the victims saying she only saw her episode and nothing else in the series. And it was very scary to her because one, she didn't know about it. Two, the actress that played her had the same hairstyle, same clothes, was saying the same exact words. Like you said, reliving the trauma, and you're not prepared. Like, there's no conversation. There's no one on the set saying like, hey, we're going to do this. We have a set doctor and, we could talk to them. So this trauma is like, if you're not having that post interview where you're talking to the person that was there, I think the whole thing is bull. I call bull on the whole thing. I call it marketing, saying it's like, hey, the victims are going to get upset. What should we do? Then you switch up the story, say we want to put the victim's voice. I call bull on that.
Yeah, and I understand why a lot of people feel the way they do about the series, because it's been getting a lot of backlash about, it's just trauma filled. It's re-traumatization for a lot of the victims, and also I'm not gonna lie, it traumatized me, dog. Like, it me up really bad, and I've watched a lot of these stuff, and I'll be honest, I've never cried in watching any of these docu-series or reenactments or biopics, but I'm not gonna lie, I was tearing up for a lot of episodes, man, especially episode 6, which you have not seen yet, so I will not ruin it for you. But just episode 6, because he was actually a friend. You know, he was Jeffrey Dahmer's friend. That's all I'm gonna say. That's it. That's it, bro. That me up.
Yeah.
Still, bro.
So, my whole thing with true crime, if it could lead to like actual programs being built to prevent all this to happen in the future, then it's doing its job. But as of the way I look at it, it scares people. It makes them nervous about the situation and the surroundings. It increases policing and gives them more rights to like abuse other people that have nothing to do with those type of situations. And that's what I think. Because
yes,
when there's actually like phone calls that are like 911 phone calls of them calling, say, hey, it's like that boy, it's like, did you do anything about it? And it's like, yeah. Like it was just boyfriend. It's like, you sure it looked like a young boy? I don't know. It's like, just didn't care to listen to them because they're black women. So, and that still happens till this day.
And see, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I remember, race being a huge issue, being a big theme throughout the show. And I remember watching, just actual Dahmer interviews to just prepare for this. And he said that, I never intentionally targeted black men because I'm racist or anything like that. He said, I just found men that I just found attractive, that I found beautiful, right? But I don't think he understood that what he did, and the fact that, how he was just able to get to just get away with it for all of those years, and for the cops to just take his word on things. That whole thing is racist.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it's like he's well aware how far or how long he could get away. Like, it's one thing to say that he was like, after he got caught, it's like, I should have got caught a long time ago, and he just went, said everything, told victim's name. It's like he was up to get caught any time, but he was playing the game. He wanted to get caught, never did. He did situations. He stayed in the same neighborhood, same type of personnel and victim, but the police didn't care about it. So no real detective work.
He got a year. He was in prison for a year for abusing the 14-year-old boy's older brother, for sexually abusing him. He was in jail for a year for that. But even then, it was just a slap on the wrist, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I think that whole instance was incredibly racist, because again, he did this in an impoverished, black neighborhood where, police officers don't really pay attention to black voices. I mean, you see how they treated Dahmer's would-be almost last victim, Tracy, when he was like running and he tried to flag them down. They thought he was on crack.
Yeah.
See?
It's I don't know. It's very difficult to. I definitely understand what you mean, because so you see a very disgruntled black man with no shirt, and it's like, what is going on? But that was the situation that got him caught, and who knows how long it would have lasted if that situation didn't happen either. And it still happens to this day. So
it still happens to this very day. And as you said, the hope is to actually learn from stuff like this. But then again, like, please don't really learn from this stuff. I mean, shoot. I mean, look what happened in 2020. Look what happened when, that stuff happened with George Floyd over in Minnesota, and, everyone was protesting, and I saw people losing their eyes in real time, Yeah. So it's never.
SVU isn't real, Law and Order SVU isn't real.
But shoot, SVU is popular though, and why is that? All right,
all the actors and stuff, but yeah,
stories too. The stories,
the stories. They're solving cases and stuff. Like, come on, these people don't solve no cases.
Right. I just want to close out by saying I have a good friend that's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and whenever he says that he's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the number one thing that is brought up is actually Jeffrey Dahmer, and he gets tired of people bringing that up to him. And I think, he always tells me, like, like the city is sick of hearing that name, like, because just because of what he's done to the city, like people are just sick of it. Like again, I said earlier on, the apartment complex in which he lived in, that got torn down. And I remember, they wanted to build, well, the victims, they wanted to build a park on top of that, to commemorate all the victims that unfortunately, met their end in that apartment complex. But, the city just kept it as this vacant lot this whole time, and it's still there to this very day. It just has a black gate surrounding it. And around the area where Jeffrey Dahmer used to roam around in the 90s, it was hustling. It was a bustling community. It had a lot of bars, it had a lot of nightclubs and stuff. But I saw this recent video of this dude who covers like true crime and stuff. He actually goes to like different locations on where ish went down and stuff. And so he went to those locations where Jeffrey Dahmer used to like be at, and it's just very sad and depressing. Like nothing's going on there, no businesses, nothing. There's only like one bar there. And remember, this is like 32 years later after the fact.
Interesting. So it kind of destroyed the whole neighborhood.
It destroyed the whole neighborhood. Yeah, that man, you say that man's name, it's like Voldemort. It's like the boogeyman over there. Like what he did, he really like affected a community to this day.
I do think politics allows things like that to happen too, because not to correlate the two together, but like the UVlad shooting that happened in Texas, what they're doing right now is they're going to shut down the school.
Oh shoot.
They're literally shutting down the school. They're not going to solve any issues or add more gun protection. They're going to throw away the problem by destroying the school, shutting it down. And that was like a mind-boggling answer. So for what you said, it's like destroying and building something new is like the best thing you could do. But to have an open lot to not to not add more like money into the neighborhood, say, hey, you're dealing with a lot of trauma. Let's create programs. Let's bring that city to the next level, right? Let's bring some life into it. Because if there's any incident that ever happens, like I'm bringing up remember the Charlie magazine shooting that happened in France?
Yes.
And the first thing, like I think the mayor or the president says, like we have to continue, like we have to push forward every single day. We have to continue. Like
right.
That doesn't really happen here in the United States. There's no like positive continuous. It's like we have to remember, we have to destroy, and we have to kind of burn everything down. So
we have to kill it.
We have to kill it.
And never mention his name ever again, which I don't think is the right way to go about things.
Yeah, because it's just still like the Charlie thing that happened in France is like you still remember, but there's like this kind of the energy. It's like we still have to live our lives.
Exactly.
But it seems like that's not what happened in Wisconsin, especially in those neighborhoods.
Oh, don't worry. I will send you the video of how sad it is. Like it sucks over there. Yeah. I'm not saying that to be funny, but no, it's really depressing just watching it. Yeah. Of what one man's murderous spree can cause to a whole community.
Especially a black community.
Really especially a black community, Bashtin. That's what makes it all the worse. But I hope y'all enjoyed this segment. I know I didn't. I'm just gonna take a break. And when we come back, I don't know, Bashtin, you want to talk some music? Do you want to recommend some people some movies to watch? What do you want to do?
Yeah, man? Let's recommend some movies, and then we'll jump straight into music.
All right, we'll be right back. 99.5 FM, WBAI New York, WBAI.org for all of our listeners tuning in on the web. Hope y'all are having a great month of October. I know I am, and I'm happy that we're getting some sunlight finally.
What was that song you were playing?
Oh, that was the end credits to the Dahmer series.
Ah, interesting. Very eerie.
Yeah, because this was an eerie ass conversation I had.
Yeah.
This wasn't who assassinated the Haitian president. Yeah. That was entertaining.
Yeah.
This was not entertaining.
That was something. I don't know. It gave the same vibe as most of the horror film OSCs from like the 70s and 80s. It's like the height of like horror.
Definitely. There's a lot of horror flicks that has taken their inspiration from Jeffrey Dahmer, from John Wayne Gacy, which he actually gets a prevalent chunk out of the Dahmer story as well. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based on Ed Gein. So yeah, a lot of your favorite horror movies, horror slasher films, um, based on a lot of these dudes. So little fun fact for y'all there. But this would not be a Spooktober without a little bit of recommendations of certain movies that we've been watching, certain shows. Like I know Bashtin put me on to that one vampire reality show. I remember that. That was on Hulu. You remember that
What
show,
We Do in the
Bashtin?
Shadow?
What We Do in the Shadow? Yes.
You watch it?
Yes. No, but I remember you told me to
Okay.
watch it.
You will, like I said, you will enjoy the show. It's right there with American comedy mixed with like British dry humor. It's a perfect show, actually. It's recorded pretty quickly too, so new seasons every year. I promise you would enjoy that show. You just sit down, watch the first full season, then you'll be a fan. But anyways,
Bashtin, what movie are you recommending us to take a look at for the month of October?
now if you're a long-time listener, you know Bashtin, me, does not care about thriller, does not care about scary movies. I did not grow up on it. I do think you have to be introduced into horror films at a young age, and then you'll kind of grow appreciation to it. Like most things, like golf, tennis, baseball, definitely.
Definitely baseball.
Definitely playing baseball. I think playing baseball you have to be taught at a young age, but getting into baseball, anybody could do that. So I don't really care for this topic. So I'm going to choose something as silly as the sequel to a 1990 movie, Hocus Pocus.
Yes.
So if you have Disney Plus, Hocus Pocus 2, if you have any service on your TV, like a smart TV, like the ads, they're going to show you Hocus Pocus 2.
Of course.
And Hocus Pocus 2 being a sequel for Hocus Pocus, is the story with the sisters and the witches. I don't want to get into it, but I do want to do a quick review saying, like, it's for kids.
Oh.
It's for kids. It's important for you to know it's for kids. There are some adult jokes, but not for the people that watched it in the 90s. Just some regular adult jokes.
Okay.
So, am I going to recommend it? Yes, you should watch it, but you should watch it with, like, the ideas, like, this is strictly for kids. And nothing more, nothing else. If anything, this would be interesting if it was a TV show series. That would be cool. But like I'm like watching this, like this would be great for like a 12 episode show on Disney Channel. That's just the way it's written for me. Or maybe I'm just getting used to like CW11 nonsense, and it kind of not the same thing, but like what I'm trying to say. Like Netflix. No, not the angst, but like Netflix TV shows and dealing with like magic kids. Like you could create so much
Umbrella
of that.
Academy?
No, more like what was the Archie series? There's Archie and there's
Riverdale,
and what's the other series? Sabrina, the teenage teenage witch. So something similar in that aspect, I think they could have done with this if they wanted to.
Okay.
Not saying it's a bad thing, just saying like maybe something they could look into. But yeah, I recommend checking that out.
It's interesting that you brought up Hocus Pocus 2 because I actually rewatched the first Hocus Pocus in preparation to watch Hocus Pocus 2 later on in the month, and rewatching the movie that came out in the 90s, which I don't think it's even considered a cult classic anymore now, because I think it's, now that it has a sequel, it's widely known. There was a lot of edgier jokes.
No, it's a cult classic. It's a cult classic.
Is it considered still a cult classic?
Oh, yeah, forever.
Okay.
The sequel is just to bank on it. That's how cult classics work. Come on, man.
Okay.
Like Tron, when Tron came out in the 80s,
right.
Like no one cared about that. But Tron 2, no one cared about that either.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, back then there was a lot of edgier jokes then, even like that I didn't understand as a kid, but now as an adult, it's like, oh yeah, a virgin has to light the black candle, and like that was like a punchline throughout the film. Like, oh, he's a virgin. I'm like, damn, all right, dog. Like, Okay,
And
he's supposed to
it's
be.
for kids too. So that was something in my mind as well. It's like this is psychologically messed up. Now you're
Hmm.
gonna be like, I'm a virgin at 16, and just depressed. Like, what are you depressed for?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but like in Disney movies, they don't
Disney
say
movie.
hell a lot. Like they
Yeah,
don't say hell and all. They were getting some ish off back in the '90s with Hocus Pocus.
it's one of those many films that could only be created in the time it came out. That's it.
Definitely,
Can
definitely.
would not exist in today's world,
I agree 100%.
or at least
Well,
that
I'm
concept.
yeah, definitely. It's one of those times where it was a lot edgier back then. Uh, I'm gonna go a different route when it comes to what I'm gonna recommend for this Spooktober. I'm recommending this movie that I saw earlier in September. It's called Barbarian, and it is from the directing debut of Mr. Zach Kreger, and it's starring Bill Skarsgård, who was Pennywise in the two It films, Georgina Campbell as the main character Tess, and the synopsis I'm going to give you the synopsis briefly, just what the movie is, and I'm just going to stop it there because I want you to go see this film, okay? So, this movie takes place in Detroit, and this woman Tess books an Airbnb to stay at for a job interview, right? And so when she gets there, she comes across Bill Skarsgård, and apparently it seems like that house was double booked. And so Bill's character convinces Tess to stay, and to make it even more comfortable, he says, "Hey, you know what? You can have the bed. I'll sleep out in the couch." And that's all I'm going to say. I have to stop it right there because there's a lot of twists and turns, and they play a lot on the horror movie tropes. So it's very Jordan Peele esque in a sense. It seems like Kreger has his influence when it comes to modern day horror films that has been produced by Jordan Peele. So I will say that. And also, I'll give you one spoiler because when I was watching this in the film, something happened and I thought I wasn't watching the same film. So just so you can avoid that, Justin Long is in the film, so don't run out to the theater usher and say that the movie changed, because it did not change. Justin Long is in the film and it is still the same film. That is all I'm gonna say. That's it. Go see the movie.
All right, so now let's get into some music.
Yes.
A lot of music came out. Well, a lot of albums came out, but I didn't get a chance to listen to. Like I know
Okay.
Bjork came out with a new album.
Oh shoot, Bjork dropped?
Yeah, but I didn't listen to that just yet. Denzel Curry came out with like a deluxe version for um
Yes.
Melt My Eyes, See Your Future.
Yes.
And
Yes, he did.
it's pretty much just like the same album but done in the more live instrumental version,
Mm-hmm.
and it works very very well. So if you ever see the Tiny Desk version of his music, that's pretty much what it is. So I, I should see him in the concert. I think he will do a very good job,
Do you
especially
prefer that version over the album version,
uh,
or it's peanut butter and jelly?
it's peanut butter and jelly. Like, it works perfectly on its own, so you can listen to both versions of it. I do think some songs you might enjoy more in like a live version. Like I do think Melt is like a
Mm,
beautiful song with the live version. But I do prefer the original Walkin', just giving you like the first two tracks. But yeah,
right.
Denzel Curry is definitely top tier for our age of rap.
Absolutely. One of my favorite albums of the year. So definitely expect to see that on the top 10
Yeah.
list.
And I just want to check out like other albums that we're probably not going to talk about, but like Shy Girl, Billy Woods, Melody Echo Chamber, Kenny Mason, and I said Bjork already, but yeah, those are other albums you could check out.
Yeah, I've heard people recommend me the Billy Woods album too when I'm at work. People are like, "Yo, G, you gotta listen to this Billy Woods." I'm like, "Okay."
You just gotta listen to it once, and if it connect,
Right.
no, it's not once, a couple times. Billy Woods, you like Billy Woods, I think you would.
Okay.
But if you
No
don't,
worries.
that's fine. I wouldn't put you on.
It's fine. No worries. Who else we have? Of course, Griselda Records, Boldy James, and Craven dropped Fair Exchange, No Robbery.
Oh, we forgot to talk about Paramore.
Oh, my bad. You want me to talk about the Paramore song? Well, Paramore just dropped a track. This was the long awaited return of Paramore. They haven't dropped since After Laughter back in 2017. And now Paramore, they're back. They're going on tour. I know they're doing that Day in Vegas thing this month, right?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. What, like they have their own Vegas set or something?
No, yeah, they have their own set, but it's like all the emo punk bands back in the day. So like My Chemical Romance,
oh, okay,
3 Days Grace, Breaking Benjamin, they're all going to be performing in Vegas. I don't know if you remember that.
I might have to look through
where tickets sold out quickly.
Old notes.
And then they had to keep adding dates to it because it was supposed to be one day.
Oh, okay, I see it.
Remember?
Yeah, When We Were Young.
When We Were Young. There we go.
Paramore is headlining with My Chemical Romance.
There you go. Yes.
Avril Lavigne's gonna be there, and Alex G. I don't like Alex G. Alex G came out with a new album too recently. Anyways.
All the emo punk, pop punk, mid 2000s peoples. They're going to be at this festival. But yes, Paramore, they dropped their new song, This Is Why, and it's a blending of that indie sound that they developed, that they transitioned to seamlessly back in 2017, with a little bit of a mixture of that pop punk sound that they're known for back in the late 2000s. So it's like a nice little mesh of sound. So it's like it's mixing in the old with the new, and I'm here for it. A lot of black people like myself like Paramore, except for Bashtin.
It's not like whatever. I don't like them. They make good music. I just didn't. That wasn't my high school experience. Like I said, I got into Radiohead around that time. It's like and Metric as well, which is a Canadian band, and Coldplay. So I was listening to other stuff too. Okay, other sad, depressing stuff.
Like, yeah, Paramore isn't cool because I listen to Radiohead. That was a South Park joke, right? Isn't that how it goes?
They're right. Radiohead is cool. Thank you.
But yeah, This Is Why. Great song, great track, very depressing. They've been making a lot of depressing ass music as of late, especially Hayley Williams. She's been making a lot of depressing ass music, but I'm here for it. Great vocals as always. Yeah, I tried to get tickets. I tried. It didn't happen. But hey, I tried. Whatever. It's gonna be for my birthday, but whatever. It's fine.
Yes.
This is why Paramore. That's it.
This is why Paramore. Okay. Anyways, Boldy James Craven came out a new album, Fair Exchange, No Robbery. It's pretty much this very heavy bar for bar album.
Yes. It's Griselda. So, it's going to be that way. It's going to be a lot of bars for bars, a lot of you know what to expect when it comes to Griselda.
I think the positive thing, it's like they're rapping on like these non-trap beats, with the hi-hats and same 808 drum bass kicks and stuff. Like they're really rapping on, well, I could say it's not soul like 2002 soul, but it's definitely a light sample, a couple good drum kicks, and enough space for the rapper to really be the main instrument. Almost like Pusha T records. That's how Kanye described Pusha T as like the voice of the record. That's how Griselda is able to do it. And Boldy James is able to do that very, very well.
Definitely. I'll say this. Despite the content of the raps, I feel like a lot of the sound itself is very calm and soothing. It's something that you want to hear when you're studying, or you want to hear late at night when you're driving home, kind of album. It's only like 10 records, 30 something minutes long, I believe. So it's very short. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and that's what I appreciate. I think this album is something that you would enjoy. What time right now here in the East Coast is 1:37. Play this album right now if you're driving. If you're a truck driver and you want something soothing, this might be the album for you right now. Well, after you listen to Black Seinfeld, of course, but after listening to this, then play the album. I think this would be something that you want to, relax to, unwind to. But if you want to keep up, don't if you want to stay awake, don't listen to this album. Then it'll be too relaxing.
Yeah.
Although it's a lot of street-ish on the music.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's very oxymoronic.
There's a lot of street. Yeah, in terms of oxymoron, it's like he's talking about like don't go back to that life yet being in that life, and like rap is just a hobby.
Yeah.
I don't mind those type of bars too. But at the same time, it's like, come on, man. It's like
I don't want to meditate to this.
This is your lane now.
Yeah.
This is like what you're about, and you're making money off the raps, and this is kind of the best way to do it.
Yeah, stay your ass out of the streets.
And I do recommend the song Scrabble. I think that was like one of my favorite records that after hearing it I had to like replay, like play it again over and over and over.
Nice.
But yeah, the bar for bar stuff is insane.
Right. Again, Boldy James and Craven, Fair Exchange, No Robbery. Shout out to Griselda, of course, one of my favorite record labels out there. Shout out West Side Gun, of course. Conway the Machine. Oh, they're all signed to different people now. Benny the Butcher, he's with The Rock.
Yeah.
West Side, he still has Griselda Records. Apparently, Griselda, he's like the mastermind behind all of this stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah, he's the curator.
Well, one of my favorite bars before we go to the next topic is put a blue check on your head to verify your glizzy.
Yes.
I was like, what?
Yes.
This is okay. But yeah, there's a lot of funny bars. I think rappers like him, it's like you have to say your funny bars.
Yeah, and you have to listen too. That's what I appreciate. You have to re-listen to what he's trying to say to you.
Yeah. All right. So the next album we're going to discuss is Kid Cudi, Intergalactic. And Gio thinks I'm a Kid Cudi hater when I try to remind Gio that, hey, Kid Cudi's definitely my high school experience in terms of listening to his mixtapes. Man and Moon 1, Man and Moon 2, even Wizard I'm a fan of, okay? But he's been going downhill.
Passion, Pain, Demon Slain, don't do that.
That's one of my favorite albums that he made, and also the album when Kids See Ghosts, which we'll probably never get a sequel to ever again, and that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Man on the Moon 3.
Man on the Moon 3, wasn't a big fan of that because I felt like he was very Travis Scotty, and Gio was very upset about that, but that's not what we're discussing today. Today we're discussing Intergalactic, which is a TV show on Netflix, which is stylized almost like okay, pretty much like the Spider-Man multiverse, which is pretty cool too. It's only Spider-Man that's stylized like that, so to have more shows with stylized animation. I haven't watched the show just yet, but I've been hearing positive reviews on it, and he even might get a season 2. So going into the album, I'm like, okay, maybe I won't treat this like I treated like Flying Lotus's Yasuke, where I only listened to the album. I actually gave it my favorite album that year.
You did? Wait, you didn't watch the Yasuke show?
No, I watched the first episode and I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. Like meta robots and shooting and come on, right. This is feudal Japan, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Well, anyways, that old enough. Anyways, no complaint there. It's not Flying Lotus's fault. He didn't animate. He produced the beats. Anyways, going back to this, I listened to Intergalactic album. I heard it a couple times. I definitely prefer the second half than the first half. But then while listening to the second half again, I'm like, all right, this is pretty good. But I could definitely tell this was created with the idea of a TV show. So maybe I have to watch the show before I could kind of give it that like full rating. But as songs within itself, it does feel like a bunch of songs that he threw together that convey a feeling, but not really like a message for the album.
Right. This was supposed to be. I can see these songs being intertwined within the show.
Yes,
because the show is about Black love.
And
somewhat.
some of these songs sound like an outro track or like an interlude track. And not saying that they're not songs within themselves. They are songs, but as like listening to Kid Cudi for a long time, he does choose like certain songs for certain reasons. Like some songs could be a sing-songy song for like, you know, him humming, and some songs could be just hard rap where he just feels like rapping sometimes. And I could tell that a lot of these songs are definitely more love-based, which is cool.
Right. Yeah, there wasn't any of what you just said in this album. It was just straight up love songs.
Love songs. And I don't mind it. So I'm not dissing this album, but I think before I really review it, I don't mind watching the show to give it like some full context, then going back on the album. It's like, yeah, I get the message of the song. So this is like more of a soundtrack, if anything. And
right. Exactly.
Compared to an album, I wouldn't call this an album.
I 100% agree with everything that you said. I'm not gonna say I didn't like it, but I just need to listen to it with watching the show in mind, because I didn't look at the show. I didn't watch the show at all. I just listened to the album, or the soundtrack a couple of times just to, you know, see if maybe, you know, it's going to be sort of like a Black Panther thing, right? Where, you know, you get a feel of the movie, or you get a feel of, you know, Yasuke, the show within the album. But you didn't really get that when it came to Intergalactic. You know, it was just a lot of love songs, but it just felt like you're gonna hear these songs when you watch the show. And so I'm not gonna say it's whack. I'm not gonna say, maybe I'll appreciate it more once I watch the show. Because I really enjoy it like that, because it was a bunch of love songs and all that.
But he had a lot of famous like actors in as voice casts, you know.
Yes, he did. I will not take that away from him. Yes, he did.
Jessica Williams, who I'm a huge fan of. Timothy Chalamet, who I'm also a huge fan of. He's him. All right, he's him. Laura Harrier, fan. Vanessa Hudson. Jaden Smith is in this as well.
Jaden Christ,
Keith David, Tiana Taylor, Macaulay Culkin, Louis Guzman. I'm pretty sure they play like small casts, but like, come on, like you pretty much called people that's like the most important people within the last 20, 30 years. So I don't know. I am interested. Like I said, I saw a lot of positive ratings, but I think this is more of like a movie though. Is it a
movie?
I think so. Or maybe it's a TV show. I have to double check.
Well, wait, you said there's going to be a season 2, though.
That's what they said.
What movies have season 2s? I mean, I know they have sequels.
Yeah.
Intergalactic 2 coming out soon, then?
Maybe.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's like a movie. So.
Okay. So it is a movie.
Yeah, it's a movie. It's an hour 32 minutes, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, congratulations to Kid Cudi. Shout out to you, man.
Yeah. So we're not hating. We're just like,
I'm not hating on it.
This is definitely like an art project, and I want to understand it within your art. So I can't. Yes. I'm not gonna rate the album, but I do recommend checking it out, and maybe also checking out the project, the movie. I don't know why.
Yeah,
say
look
TV
at the
show.
movie first.
TV special, I could say.
Yes, there you go.
All right.
All right. So. The big rabbit is back. The big lord, Freddie Gibbs from Gary, Indiana, with his latest album, Soul Sold Separately. Hope I did that right. Yep. Hope I enunciated that properly. Good. And I gotta say, gotta be honest with you, Bashtin. After listening to this album for the week, Freddie done did it again.
Did it again.
Freddie done did it again.
I don't know how he's able to keep the beat selection, right? Like it's you know what's funny? Just like going back to his older projects, like from like before Pinata. It's like, okay, this is definitely an older style. Then starting from Pinata to like now, it's just been a shriek of great beat selection, great ideas, great hooks, and this whole album where you don't really have to skip a track, where it's like its own piece. So when Pinata came out, we're like, oh, this is like a Mad Lib heavy production project. Like, what could we do? Then I remember when Shadow of a Doubt came, and it's kind of when it came out, I was like, damn, it's gonna be hard to listen to because of Pinata. But Shadow of a Doubt was great. Then like You Only Live Twice, that was great too.
Yes,
I thought the production
was my first introduction.
Huh?
That was my introduction to Freddie Gibbs.
Oh yeah, that was like a very fun album. And then like Freddie, that was when he looks like a soul singer.
Right.
Then Bandana came out in 2019. That was nasty.
Crushed the Game. And then 2020,
Alfredo, and that was great Alchemist too. And then like we have this album. It's like, all right, so
what's Freddie gonna do for us now? What is he gonna give us now?
He could do no wrong. If anything, I will love more Mad Lib series, which he said he will continue doing. But I love listening to his other projects. This is pretty cool.
Yeah. What I appreciate actually is because I think I enjoyed this album because he steered away from like Mad Lib and like the Alchemist sound a little bit with this. He shows his roots because he's still a man from the Midwest, and so there's still a lot of like Southern drawl and Southern influence in that region. And so I love the slick, sleek ass like Southern drawl beats. You know what I mean? Like just tracks you want to just ride around in your whip with, and just get into some trouble with. I love that, and he rides those beats just so effortlessly. It's like you knew he grew up listening to all this, man. It was incredible.
Yeah. And even starting from like the first track couldn't be done. It's like, okay, like you could tell the sample, great way to start this track.
Price, of course,
giving you this energy, and then the momentum kept going from there. Even when he did Pain and Strife with Offset. No, actually talking about Blackest in the Room. I thought that was that was a great song.
Freddie's always been political, but also still ignorant. It's sort of like Black Seinfeld. He's always able to slip in a couple of gems about just about being black in America, but also still having black force energy, as he would say.
Yeah, I thought that song was pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, it's very introspective, but also very violent, and it shows. It shows a balance of who Freddie Gibbs is. He gives you something to pontificate over, but also he'll also give you the Instagram Freddie Gibbs.
Yeah, he's like Blackest in the Room. Fred Hampton, they came and shouted up Blackest in the Room. Jeff Fort when he hit Gaddafi up. Blackest in the Room. Why can't hit Clarence Thomas up? I was like, damn. First of all, did he do the Jeff Fort Gaddafi reference? Like, yes. People don't know that.
Really? People don't know about the disciples and all that?
No, that's not a thing.
Okay.
Chicago. That's not a thing people know or talk about. So I don't know.
Gary isn't too far from Chicago.
I believe that too. So Jeff Fort must have been the thing that he saw growing up. But still,
yeah, he was a prolific. He was the head of the disciples at one point. He was the one where Jeff Fort brought all the little gangs of Chicago together as one. Another conversation for another day, but I digress. He apologized to Dr. Umar on this album as well, so I thought that was funny.
Yeah, but that's just Blackest in the Room.
Yes.
Then throughout the album, I think he does really well. I think the features does well. Not too crazy about the Rick Ross song, verse if anything, but Anderson .Paak was definitely a fun experience in the song. Feel No Pain. He did the hook, the first verse. And going back to what you're saying about the production, it stays away from like the Mad Lib and the Alchemist. I do think it has more of a relaxed tone, almost like the Boldy James album, in terms of like there's still space for rappers to get their job done, but also the beat within itself, it has its own like chords, it's soothing, and it's rememberable. You can actually remember these beats.
Yeah. And speaking of memorable beats and memorable songs, memorable hooks, my personal favorite track off of this whole album is PYS featuring DJ Paul.
Okay.
Oh man, just that Southern Memphis drawl, because DJ Paul of one 3-6 Mafia. You know, pimp culture is huge down there in Memphis, Tennessee. So, you know, just encapsulating that sound and that and that, you know, that flow with that beat and just that Memphis bounce. I thought this was like this was peak. This was the peak for me when it came to this album. I rewind this track like a good 5 times. I thought Freddie did a great job. I thought the girl who was singing the hook did a great job, and then DJ Paul just came out of nowhere. He just
brought the energy.
It was just the oregano on top of the pizza. It was great.
And the funny thing about this album too is the skits. Not even skits, the voicemails. With like Jeff Ross and Joe Rogan, I thought was a funny one.
Yep.
And Jesus by Gerald Slink Johnson.
That's right.
You know, it's Jesus, man. I thought
Lamar from GTA 5 for all of you,
and
all you GTA fans.
And I thought the skits did add, like normally you skip a skit, but it added an extra flavor. It's like he's in Vegas and he's chilling, having a good time in a hotel lobby. You know, hotel just making nonsense, and it gave some atmosphere to the records.
Well, one thing I wanted to preference throughout this album was how introspective Freddie was throughout this whole album. You know, how reflective he was and how much it seems like he's growing. Like how much he wants to make amends with certain people, such as Jeezy. For those of you who don't know the Freddie Gibbs story, he was signed with Jeezy, and then, you know, he felt like Jeezy didn't really do his best to promote him or anything, so he was let go by Jeezy. And, you know, Gibbs sort of, you know, he held a little bit of a grudge against Jeezy because he used to love listening to Jeezy. He grew up listening to Jeezy, so when he was signed to Jeezy, he thought, you know, this is gonna be it for him, but it turned out it wasn't that. And so, you know, Gibbs had a bit of a grudge he held against Jeezy for a while, and so, you know, he sort of came to terms and just squashed it, and he said it's all love. But also he alluded to other things as well, because he was beefing with certain rappers that, you know, he once collabed with at a time, and, you know, that was a huge falling out, and he didn't shy away from addressing those things. So and that's something I enjoy throughout this album is Freddie's willingness to you know, open up and to be a bit more vulnerable, because all we know is like the jokey side of Freddie Gibbs, where he's on Instagram and, you know, he's wilding out and all that crap, and he's, you know, you hit on his damn stories, and I don't know, you'll see some crackhead giving head in the alley or something, you know, just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so I appreciate seeing that side of Freddie. You know, it's something that we really don't see that often, because, you know, he always talks about, you know, coming up in the crack era or coming up in the crack game, or, you know, he'll say some pro-black stuff, but, you know, he rarely talks about himself. And that's something I appreciate throughout this album. He actually talked about himself and what he's going through with his baby moms and all of his baby moms and all that stuff, and his children. And, you know, I appreciated that.
Yeah. And one of my favorite songs before we wrap up on the show is CIA by Freddie Gibbs.
Yes.
Because afraid cuz I still sell crack and I'm in a rap game. Shout out. Youngins doing a murder for a clout and they post it on the page. Right. I thought that was a very important line. Then he ends it with CIA. They gave us crack, Instagram, and AIDS. I was like, what?
That is prolific.
I understand what he means by that in terms of like everything to destroy the community, but it's one of the more interesting songs to end the album with.
Right, but to be fair, the government didn't give us Instagram. You know, that was just big tech that gave us Instagram. Unfortunately, Freddie, I apologize. I know what you mean. Yeah, it was clever.
It's
but
clever.
Technically,
but in terms of like what Facebook was doing, the government was going to do that, but they decided not to. But in terms of tracking and, you know, all that fun stuff. Anyways, that's the album. Go check it out. Soul separately. Fun projects. Listen to the other projects we also discussed. This is Black Seinfeld. This is a show about absolutely nothing. Listen to our podcast on all social media, on all platforms. Just type in Black space Seinfeld. And if you want to listen to more stuff, just type go on blackseinfeld.com and check out our videos. And email us at blackseinfeldny@gmail.com.
All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you all again next week. We're going to leave y'all with some Freddie Gibbs featuring Moneybag Yo. Peace.
Peace.